Hello there, I'm Nicholas Reed, the creator of The Object Saga, and today, for this story time, we're going to do something a little different. For The Object and The Fear Inside, both those films were based on a short story I'd previously written. Now for this one, listener, it's actually the other way around. It was originally supposed to be a short film, but now it's been converted into a short story. So I hope you take that into context as we read that and see what you think of this new structure we're going for this short story. Now, let's begin. The Listener, an anthology story. On a dark, fateful night, on the empty roads, a car zooms past. Within the car was two close friends, named Joanna and Clarke. In the driver's seat, Joanna was making small talk with her longtime friend about her ex, Jonathan, and other topics. While Joanna concentrated on driving, Clarke soon changed the subject, telling his friend, "Oh, I've got you something. I found it one day and thought of you. I thought it would go well with your weird collection of things." The two giggled as Joanna responded by saying, "As long as it's nothing like what my ex-boyfriend would get me, that'll be just fine." Dennis Clarke leant down to pick up a box. It almost looked like a jewellery box, but not quite. Clarke then opened the box and asked his friend what she thought of it. Joanna Taylor quickly glanced at what was in the box, but for some reason, she found herself not being able to look away, being mesmerised by the contents of the box. Joanna felt herself entranced and content, when suddenly, Clarke shouted out to her, "Joe, look out!" She suddenly snapped out of her trance to realise she was still driving. But it was too late. Joanna's car hits a certain businessman in the middle of the road and crashes. Sometime later, Joanna awakens in the hospital, where her mother, Jane, and her brother, Jeffrey, are waiting for her. Joanna is covered in cuts and bruises, but seemingly okay. That is until her family started speaking to her, but she could not hear what they were saying to her. Scared and worried about not only herself but her friend Clarke, she starts shouting out his name, when shockingly she hears a voice. Several, in fact, but not all at once. Seemingly, no one had opened their mouths. Just as she was about to question this, she hears her brother's voice telling her that Dennis Clarke died in the car crash. As soon as Joanna hears the news, she begins to uncontrollably cry as her family and a certain doctor named Daniel Carter try to comfort her. Joanna begins to monologue to herself in her head, telling her own story. Life is a weird experience. One minute everything seems perfect, and then it all goes downhill. After I awoke in the hospital, I found myself unable to hear anything. I had lost my best friend and my hearing. I thought my life was over, but I was wrong. Time passes, months, and shockingly, no one has come to visit the now deaf Joanna. Laying in her bed alone, her mother enters with a plate of food for her daughter. A depressed Joanna arises when she hears her mother's voice, but again, like in the hospital, her mother is not physically speaking. This troubles and confuses the young lady, who at the moment ago was mourning her dear friend. Mrs. Taylor sees her daughter's worried look on her face and puts the plate down to sit next to her and comfort her daughter, while the whole time Joanna can hear her mother's thoughts and fears for her daughter. Joanna's sadness briefly disappears as she realises her new gift. She may have lost her hearing, but she has gained the ability to read people's minds. Joanna narrates, "I don't know how I got this ability, but once I heard people's thoughts for the first time, I began to see life a little differently." Joanna begins to test her new abilities as she walks down her local street. As she does, she passes a few people and hears what they are thinking to themselves. The first person she passes is a dog walker. The owner thinks to himself, "Please don't shit on the floor, you stupid dog." Joanna silently giggles to herself as she walks past the gentleman. Next, she sees and hears a man in a suit rush out of his house and into his car, while thinking, oh shit, why do I always have to oversleep? My wife's gonna kill me if I don't make it home in time. Still, I'm bloody loving this affair. A look of shock briefly appeared upon hearing the man's thoughts. Joanna made her way home, and her neighbour was standing outside the next door. She waved at Joanna while thinking, poor girl. Oh well, at least she won't have to put up with the noise when I have a party next week. Joanna smiled as she waved back to her neighbour and entered her house. Later in the week, Joanna was in the bathroom. Her brother Jeffrey walks in on her by accident, and upon seeing his sister on the toilet, he starts mildly shouting at her, "Jesus, Joanna, I'm going to be scarred for life." The brother slams the door while thinking, fucking stupid girl, why couldn't she just lock the door? Joanna, upon hearing her brother's thoughts, shouts out to him, well, fuck you too. Jeffrey stops and seems a little puzzled at first, but shrugs it off and walks off into his room. In her bedroom, Joanna is sitting on her bed, contemplating her life as she hears echoed voices from the outside world. Now realising the power of her new gift, Joanna gets up off of her bed and begins to walk around her room. Joanna wanders over to her dressing table, looking at the box that Clarke had given to her, while also seeing a photo of the two of them. While in her room, Joanna is visited by her friend, Claire, who was a feisty but loyal friend of Joanna's. At first, Claire was not sure how to react to Joanna, almost shouting at her friend to say hello. Joanna, however, found Claire's mind very easy to read, as she seemed to be saying almost exactly the first thought that had popped into her head. After an awkward beginning, the friends' conversation returned to normal, almost as if they had never been apart. The conversation soon turned, however, when Claire noticed a picture of Joanna's ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Myers. Claire was shocked by this, considering how Joanna and Jonathan's relationship ended, causing Joanna to remember the last time she saw Jonathan Myers. It was some time before Joanna's incident, a good year before, and was also the same night the Myers family disappeared. Joanna was getting ready for a night out with her friends Sam, Clarke, and Claire, while Jonathan was also getting ready to go, as he was also meeting up with his childhood group of friends and his brother, Andrew Myers. Jonathan was waiting around for Joanna to get ready, and was suspiciously trying to convince Joanna not to come out. After bouncing around the conversation a bit, Joanna then clocked on to what was going on. Jonathan was planning on meeting another woman that night. Joanna then sternly proceeded to kick Jonathan out of her house. Later that evening, Clarke had come around to comfort his friend. The two sat and cuddled on the sofa, deciding to stay in and have a movie night together, rather than go out. Snapping back to the present, Joanna explained to her friend that she kept the photo of Jonathan as a memento, as no one had seen him since. Claire mentions that she remembered hearing of the now famous story of the missing Myers family, who disappeared one night, never to be seen again. All of them, except one, Jonathan's brother, Andrew Myers. Claire stops mid-sentence when she realises the conversation is making Joanna uncomfortable, and she kneels down to her friend and says, "Let's go out." The two friends, now joined by another one of their friends and also Jeffrey's girlfriend Samantha, Sam for short, head into town, walking around, talking, shopping and having coffee. It is the first time Joanna has felt normal in a long time. The three friends are giggling and having fun, almost as if they'd forgotten Joanna was now deaf. Sam does remember and calls this out, but Joanna makes an excuse up that she's become really good at lip reading, fearing that her two friends would not understand her new gift. The three ladies continue their journey through town. Joanna spots a man in black. With her powers, she glimpses his name as Seth. Joanna begins to hear his thoughts as he stares at the woman longingly, perving on her. Joanna gets a look of disgust on her face. Her friends, seeing this, ask her what is wrong, to which Joanna replies, "I think that man's perving on me." Claire, without a second thought, begins shouting at the man, telling him, "Ew, what a freak! Go on, get lost! Yeah, you, piss off!" Seth, with a look of shock, begins to walk off, but quickly stops to take one more look at Joanna. This time, however, she heard something that shocked her. "I know what you can do," Seth thought, with a grin on his face as he walked off, leaving Joanna puzzled and confused. After the confrontation with Seth, Joanna suddenly got a blast of hundreds of voices in her head. For a second, overwhelming her, she had previously been able to control the amount of people's thoughts she could hear, but for the second, she lost it. Her friends confront her as she shows pain on her face, asking her if she's okay, but Joanna shrugged it off to her friends. Later that day, Joanna was back in her bedroom by herself. This time, however, she was feeling the pain of hundreds of people's voices in her head, much longer than before. While not getting rid of the voices completely, Joanna is able to subdue them as she walks over to the other side of her room, where the makeup desk was. Joanna, for some reason, feels compelled to go over to the box that Clarke gave to her. She opens it to reveal a large chunk of amethyst. Somehow, the rock, this object, was making the voices a lot easier to deal with. Joanna looks outside, almost feeling compelled to go out into the world. Still in agony, Joanna left her house and wandered the streets of town, her head feeling like it was about to explode, but somehow holding the object that Clarke had given her was soothing the pain. She continued to walk the streets of town when she bumped into someone. Joanna turned around to see what looked like her ex-boyfriend's brother, Andrew Myers. Before she could speak to him, however, the pain and the voices had come back with a vengeance as Andrew disappeared into the crowd. She patted her back pocket to reveal the object had somehow gone. In the alleyway near to Joanna, the man that looked like Andrew Myers pulled out the mysterious object, revealing he had stolen it from her. An evil grin appeared on his face as he exited the alleyway. He approached a man, bumped into him, dropped the mysterious object in front of him. The man turned around to reveal another Andrew Myers, looking around to see who had bumped into him. But this man had disappeared into the crowd. The young Andrew Myers turned back around to see what the other man had dropped, and soon became entranced by the mysterious object. The other Andrew was in the alleyway, this time watching his other self. Joanna, struggling to carry on, The voice is getting louder and louder, cradles her head in pain. Not noticing Andrew Myers standing in place, entranced by the object as she passed him to go into the alleyway. All this time walking past Andrew's doppelganger. He, however, grabs her attention as she attempts to listen to his mind. She hears nothing at all, almost as if it's like a limbo, a blackout of noise. The brief pause of voices scares Joanna, as does this version of Andrew, so she continues to walk through the alleyway as she presses through. The voices come back with a vengeance, and Joanna finally succumbs to the pain, falling down to her knees and screaming out in pain. As Joanna screams, the young Andrew snaps out of his trance. He runs towards the noise and inadvertently bumps into his doppelganger, causing the two to merge. Andrew, a little confused and in pain, shrugs it off as he continues to run towards the scream. Andrew turns the corner to see Joanna, holding her head in pain. He runs over to her, kneels down and says, "What's wrong? Are you alright? What's your name?" Andrew begins to panic. As Joanna was unresponsive, he turns his head and shouts, "Somebody help!" Andrew turned back around to the catatonic Joanna, saying, "It's going to be alright. You're going to be alright. I'm here for you. You're going to be okay." Andrew stayed with Joanna while she was there, in her crazed state, the whispers of so many voices coursing to her mind to collapse in on itself. Much later, Joanna was in the corner of a padded cell, whispering to herself. She had lost complete control of her powers, and everybody's thoughts had flooded into her mind. Joanna had been committed to an asylum. As Joanna rocked back and forth, her brother Jeff and their mother Jane were watching on through the cell door, the mother crying as her son comforts her at the sight of their lost daughter. The mother left, and Dr. Carter approached Jeffrey Taylor, explaining they have no idea what is causing her mental break, as Jeff stands there silently, staring at his sister, fearing he has lost her forever. As she sits there, rocking away uncontrollably, Joanna Taylor had one last thought of her own. And this is it. This is how my world ends. Not in a blaze of glory, but a whimper. The end. So there you go. There is the short story version of The Listener. As you well know, this was originally supposed to be the third short film in our original planned object quadrilogy, and we got a fair way through of making this short film, but unfortunately we didn't finish it off. That's when we decided, well, around about the same time it was getting we're having troubles with it, we decided to integrate it into the big finale, Object Legacy. So you will see a lot of what we filmed for Listener in Object Legacy, but I thought, as this story, everything that happens into it is canon to the main story, I thought it would be interesting to tell the full story in this form. Also, you may notice slight differences there. What the character that visits Joanna in her home is not Claire, because we never actually got around to casting a character called Claire. We did have a person in mind, but we didn't, so we changed it to Sam, Jeffrey's girlfriend. So that character of Sam became an amalgamation of Sam the girlfriend and Claire the fierce but loyal best friend. So there's a little behind the scenes on The Listener, the original short story. I hope this was interesting for you to watch, and I hope it is a nice build up for what's coming along with the Object Legacy. Thank you very much. I've been Nicholas Reed, and I shall see you very soon for the Object Legacy. Ta-ta for now.